What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. And today we're just going to be talking about Returnal. I just completed it for the first time, and I got some things to say, so I'm just going to talk about it. So strap up and enjoy. I don't know how long this is going to go for, but I don't know. Dude, I fucking suck at making videos, bro. So this isn't really a review or really even a retrospective. It's just basically a guy on the internet talking about a game he just beat. So I don't even know what the title's going to be, but you do because it's on YouTube. It's probably something stupid like, let's talk about Returnal, or Returnal, ... my thoughts. Something fucking not catchy at all. That's okay, though. You know, we're learning. We're learning. Before we get into the video, if you don't mind leaving a like and subscribing to the channel to see more of this content, I would really appreciate it. Listen, I hate call to actions just as much as everybody. I think they're annoying, but the fact of the matter is, unfortunately, they do work. So if you like a guy, awkward, talking about games, and you want to be a part of it, or see more of it, feel free to hit the subscribe button. I want to do more videos like this in the future, and hopefully they get better as time goes on. Also, just want to mention, I don't make content for profit. I don't have any intentions to become a full-time content creator. As a matter of fact, I have a link in the description to donate to my local animal shelter. I'm a huge animal advocate, love animals, everything to do with animals. I have 6 adopted cats of my own and 2 dogs that are barking currently. But I love animals, and basically, I want my content to help animals. And so if you want to support me, I don't know why you would, but if you do, donate to your local animal shelter or the link in the description to help out animals in need. They can't speak up for themselves, and they need people like us to help them out. Anyways, enough bullshitting. Let's get on to the video. So Returnal was developed by Housemarque Games for the PS5 and is now available on PC. It was a PS5 exclusive for a long time, but they did release a PC port recently, so you can play it on either platform. Housemarque's kind of an interesting developer. They've got a weird variety of games. They've been around since '96. They actually made games on the MS-DOS all the way back in the day, and then have made a bunch of weird stuff since then. They did like an Angry Birds port at one point. They made Resogun, which I never played, but I recognize the name, so maybe you do as well. They made Matterfall for PS4, another game I didn't play, but recognize the name. And now they made Returnal. Returnal is a third-person roguelike, and it's pretty fun. I gotta say, it's a lot of fun. There's some issues we'll get into in a little bit, but we'll get to that when we get to it. I just want to give a huge shout out to Kalen in the community for recommending this game. He kept begging me to play it when I bought my PS5, and I decided to oblige, and that's how I got started. So if you're unfamiliar with roguelikes, essentially you spawn in at the first time playing the game at your weakest level. So, and then as you play the game and get further and further into the game itself, you get better unlocks to make your character better, to make progression throughout the game easier. But typically, you die, start at the same point as you did the very first time you booted up the game, and continue and get further and further and get better weapons in the actual cycle to kind of progress through the game. So on your first playthrough, your very first time booting up the game, you're as weak as you possibly can be with no clue what you're getting yourself into. And this is a big struggle, I would imagine, for developers to deal with, is how to make a game engaging when you're starting the player at the very weakest point possible. And honestly, I'm just going to keep it 100. I think the beginning of Returnal kind of stinks, okay? It's not the greatest beginner experience, and I think, again, a lot of it is just related to the genre. You kind of have to know going into it that the beginning is going to be a suck fest, and I don't necessarily think that Housemarque did a fantastic job of making the beginning of the game interesting. The game does get more interesting as you unlock better weapons throughout the runs and things of that nature to make your progress easier, but that starting pistol is kind of a turd and just not that fun to use, to be honest. So now that you understand how the game functions, we'll basically talk about the story, and this is the only story conversation we're going to have about the game, because, to be honest, I don't fucking know. I beat the game, I still don't know what the fuck happened in this game, to be honest, but essentially, you play as Celine. She's the main character of the game. At the beginning of the game, you crash onto an unknown planet, and that's it. You land, and then you go through a door, and that takes you to the first biome of the game, the Overgrown Ruins. Luckily, you do crash the plane with a pistol in your hand that you can use for biome 1 to get you started. This pistol's kind of stinky, and especially the beginning of the game, it's stinky because you got nothing unlocked. So, anyways, you venture into the Overgrown Ruins, a very dark biome, kind of imposing, a lot of fog on the ground, a lot of holes, so many holes. I died in holes more in biome 1 than I did pretty much throughout the whole game until a point later that we'll talk about shortly. But fuck holes, man, fuck them. In biome 1, you're going to run into a bunch of enemies here. You're going to find a bunch of flying squid-like fellers. You're going to have dogs, 2 varieties of dogs, little dogs that are pretty much non-factors, and then their big brother dire wolf-esque mini-boss type of guy that's a kind of a pain in the, kind of your first obstacle is going to be a big dog. But you're going to experience those in here. And then you're also going to experience 2 enemies in particular that give you a problem, okay? So one of these 2 enemies is the lovingly character that we've deemed Groot. By we, I mean me, and Kaylin recommended the game to me because I'm a 1-viewer streamer. Hey-o. Anyways, Groots are kind of a pain, okay? They're not really aggressive on their own, okay? They throw a little green bomb at you that basically glues you to the ground, makes your movement really slow, but you can jump up and dash out of it. So that attack's not that bad, but they do have an attack where they shoot out a bunch of green sparks that are homing missiles that all fly at you. That attack's kind of a problem. But where Groots really become a problem is when they also pair them with these fuckers, the goddamn bats. And typically when you find a Groot, you know bats are coming, and these bats just dive bomb you constantly, and they fly 360 degrees around your character. So what tends to happen a lot is you get stuck by the glue bomb by the Groot, and then you get fucking ambushed by bats everywhere. And it is a nightmare. So, fuck those enemies. Little tip though, if you see a bat going orange, you know it's going to dodge or dive at you. So if you shoot it once, it cancels the dive animation. So that's a good tip. But they're everywhere. So it's hard to one tick them all. And can become a problem. Become a problem very quickly. Nothing is as bad as the pits, though. The fucking holes. I still have nightmares. Anywho's, along biome 1, you're going to come across 2 new weapon variants in the game. You're going to get a carbine rifle, and you're going to get a shotgun. The carbine rifle is very good in biome 1 for just the overworld stuff. Obviously, it's a rifle. It's a lot better than a pistol. And then the shotgun initially stinks, but there is a passive ability called Slug Shot that you can get, which makes it an absolute beast. And very useful for the boss that we'll talk about shortly. Should back up just a little bit, though. We talked about a passive, so I want to explain this mechanic as well. You do a proficiency level in the game, so when you go in, you start at proficiency level 1, and by killing enemies or picking up calibrators scattered throughout the world, your weapon proficiency will increase. As your weapon proficiency level increases, the rarity or the quality of the weapon that you find in the world will increase alongside with your proficiency rate. So you start at level 1, you kill enough enemies, your proficiency rate is going to go up to 2, and you're going to find level 2 weapons instead of level 1 weapons, if that makes sense. It just makes them a little bit better. And also tied into your proficiency level are passive traits. And these passive traits can be a variety of different things. Just as a quick example, for your pistol, you can unlock a passive trait called Burst Fire, which turns it into a 3-round burst pistol instead of just a single-shot pistol. That's a basic example. It gets a lot more complicated than that, and I'm not going to talk about every weapon and every variety and every side ability in the game because a lot of the game's enjoyment is finding those weapons and finding those passives that you can use to make those weapons more viable throughout your runs. And I'm not necessarily here to spoil the game. I just want to talk about it. That way, if you're interested, maybe you can give it a shot. But anyways, that being said, highly recommend getting the slug shot, and then you're going to go into the final room in the Overgrown Ruins to fight the first boss of the game, Frike. Now, looking back on it, Frike's not that difficult, but I think Frike is the only boss in the whole game, spoiler alert, that killed me. So, there's that. But, yeah, he fucked me up until I learned to use the slug shot shotgun and blow his ass to pieces. But anyways, Frike kind of looks like a fucking Warframe character, if you ask me. Maybe he doesn't to you, but he does to me, and my video. But that's what it looks like to me. Anyways, he's not too bad. Just pay attention, dodge the projectiles, shoot him, and he dies. All the bosses in this game have 3 phases. And each phase transitions similar to a Souls game. They kind of get different abilities, different attacks, or more aggressive attacks, I guess is what you should say. And, you know, just be patient and deal with what comes at you. I think the reason bosses in this game aren't super challenging is just the fact that the main challenge in this game that I had was just the amount of shit everywhere, hitting me in the back of the head, hitting me from the side of the screen where I couldn't see, that when you're at just one-on-one with an enemy, it's not very difficult. So maybe the bosses weren't intended to be difficult, but they just weren't that hard. And Frike was kind of a pushover once you get the right build, but that's going to take care of Biome 1. Biome 2 is the Crimson Wastes. This is a desert environment with a bunch of red sand everywhere. It seems to be open world, but it's kind of a lie. It's not really open. If you go too far out, you get slowed down and dust hits you in the face and all that. But definitely the enemies ramp up here a little bit. There's a lot more projectiles on the screen you got to pay attention to dodge for. But as long as you take your time with it, shouldn't be a huge deterrent to get through this area. But yeah, it's going to be a step up in difficulty, that is for certain. The nice thing, though, about this game is every time you go into a new biome, there's always a calibrator at the doorway of the beginning of the next biome. So you can grab the calibrator, which increases your proficiency level to put you at a roughly decent area to give you at least a sufficient weapon out of the first weapon crate that you find in that biome, which comes in use because after you get to Biome 2, you can go into Biome 1 and skip right to Biome 2 with like level 1 proficiency, for example. And when you find the calibrator, it'll bump you up to level 9 automatically. So that first weapon that you pull in Biome 2 is going to be roughly up to the level that you should be at for Biome 2. Biome 2 takes a little bit of a different visual style as far as the enemies go. If you can hear my dogs, I apologize, but I'm just going to keep pushing through. There's a lot of like little cubes that are similar to the octopus, but they shoot a lot more a lot more projectiles. I'm leaving that in, by the way. And that's kind of a pain in the ass. The mini boss of this area is like a big ass squid. Kind of looks like a hammer, sort of. It's like a souped up version of the square enemies that shoot projectiles, and this shoots a fucking mother criker load of projectiles, but that's something you're gonna have to contend with throughout the stage. But as you walk through the desert, you make it to basically the cathedral of the area, which you go inside and are given a very, very cool weapon called the Hollow Seeker. It's essentially an LMG that shoots plasma bullets. And I gotta tell you, when you start to get some of these side perks for this thing, it just absolutely slaps. So definitely a fun weapon to use. Definitely up there with one of the best weapons in the game, in my opinion. And this is a great time to get it, except for after you get it, you kind of round the corner and you run into an enemy you're going to encounter a lot going forward, which is basically a mini version of Mr. Warframe Man boss from the last level. And these things are omega aggressive, and they have a teleportation attack where they teleport to you and slash your throat, basically, and it does so much damage. And until you learn how to dodge that attack, they're in assholes. They're in assholes. This video fucking sucks! Anyways, once you get the hang of those guys, the rest of the stage isn't really that difficult. Just dealing with kind of those enemy types. I'm sure I'm missing some, but this is all off the cuff. Anywho's. Anyways, once you get to the boss, you fight Ioxium. He's pretty cool boss design. Again, still looks like a Warframe character with wings this time. Editing note here. His name is Ioxion with an N, not an M. I'm going to say it again, but sorry about it. But nothing super crazy. Didn't kill me. I was pretty well kitted when I fought him the first time. The one tip I would give, the best tip I could give, every time he phase transitions, he jumps into the sky and lands in the center of the arena. So as long as you stay to the outside when he phase transitions, it's going to give you the best chance to beat this guy. After beating Ioxium, he gives you the grappling hook, which you've seen many points throughout the game to this point. Little dots everywhere, places you can't reach. So this is a great upgrade, and it helps the game so much, man. It is a struggle getting through stages 1 and 2 and not having the grappling hook because it feels really slow, but this grappling hook really changes the flow of the game and helps to speed things up a little bit to make the gameplay more engaging. And it helps reach a lot of difficult to reach areas or areas you couldn't reach before. So it's a great item, really wonderful capper to the end of Biome 2. Once we get out of there, we are able to go into Biome 3, the Derelict Capital. Now this biome didn't really give me very many problems. I know it was difficult. Again, they changed the enemies up a little bit, so now they're more robotic in nature. And what you're going to find in Biome 3 a lot of the times is there's a lot of death explosions on certain enemies. So you'll take out an enemy that you saw in Biome 2, but in this stage, they blow up and there's a big red ore ring that flies across the screen. So if you're just rushing in to get the obolites that they drop, which is the currency in this game, didn't mention that, I'm a bad video maker. But anyway, once you rush in to grab those, you're going to get hit by that unless you're prepared. And if you're like me, you forget that it happens and you get hit by it every singular time. And you just get mad at yourself. But as a gamer, you know, while I'm playing, I'm blaming the game and getting pissed off at everything under the sun, when in reality, it's my fault because I don't learn from lessons that I should have learned from. But it's still the game's fault, right? Absolutely. But after grinding your way through Biome 3, you come across the Biome 3 boss, Nemesis. This is an awesome fight that utilizes the grappling hook in an incredible way. A lot of projectiles. I mean, the projectiles in Biome against Nemesis are ramped up crazy. There's so many projectiles, and you have to grappling your hook your way around these floating platforms, and it's a fun fight. Very good fight. I do think if you just grapple to the closest platform to the boss, you can kind of cheese it a little bit. I noticed that the further away from the boss, the more in danger I felt like I was. He has like these statues around him that do these like lightning attacks that hurt like crazy. But if you get to the closest platform, those guys just don't activate for some reason. So it makes the fight pretty easy. But yeah, it's a good fight. It's a memorable fight. It's probably a fight I'll remember for quite some time. And it's a good capper to the first act of the game. So, pretty good fight. Now, at the end of Act 3, you may think the game is over. However, that's just a halfway point. So, essentially what happens, you end up going through a cutscene that I paid attention to but didn't understand. And then you crash land again. However, this time you crash land, well, back on the same planet, essentially. You crash land and you go into Biome 4. Biome 4 is actually a green version of Biome 1. This is the trend that's going to continue for Biome 5 as well. But essentially, the Overgrown Ruins, or Biome 1, kind of redesigned and created and turned into the Echoing Ruins. And as you can tell from the video here, it's just a much more visually appealing area. Instead of the dark, foggy, dreary area that it once was, it's now full of lush life, vegetation. Looks wonderful. I think that this is one of the most visually appealing biomes in the game. So Echoing Ruins gets a thumbs up for visual style for me. So as you fight through the Echoing Ruins, you're obviously going to come across a lot of the same enemies you've seen from the previous 3 biomes. And if you can't tell, I'm getting more and more vague as we go. 1, because my throat's dry and I suck at making videos. 2, I don't want to spoil it again, like I said at the beginning. I want you guys to experience this if you want to, and enjoy the game for what it has to offer. And in a roguelike, a lot of that is the discovery. That's what makes the game fun, so I don't want to give it all away. But I will say the 4th biome boss is one of maybe the best boss experience in the game. The music is phenomenal. This is a big character playing an organ, using the organ to shoot you. It is a phenomenal set-piece boss that is super memorable. So between him and Nemesis, those are probably the 2 fights that I'm going to remember the most about this game. And this one in particular is just phenomenal from a visual style because the biome is so great, as well as just the actual environment and the atmosphere of this fight is incredible. A lot of fun killing this guy. So after putting this dude down, you go to Biome 5. And Biome 5 is just terrible. It is fucking terrible. It is the worst. I mean, it literally takes the enemies from the rest of the game and cranks the aggressiveness up to 400,000, and it is such a pain in the ass. I've probably spent 3 hours in Biome 5, at least. It was horrible. So bad. It's just like the worst. In particular. So after having one of the best experiences of the game, you are taken to the redesigned Biome 2, this being Biome 5 now, the Fractured Wastes. So instead of a desert, you have a snow, blizzard environment, snow everywhere. And this is the worst biome in the game, hands down, without a doubt, without question. Biome 5 sucks. It takes the enemy aggression level and cranks it up to 450,000,000%, and it is horrible. It is just terrible. I suck at the overworld stuff in this game to begin with, and this just makes it 100 times worse. I probably spent 3 hours at least just dealing with Biome 5 enemies. In particular, the fucking robots that fly up, and once you get them to like a quarter health, they just decide, fuck it, dude, I'm going to suicide bomb my ass directly into your face. Horrendous. Absolutely horrible. And when those things fly at you and explode, they do fucking 75% of your health, no matter how much integrity you have or how much protection you've built up through that run or through that cycle. they're going to smoke your ass, and it is a nightmare. Oh, bad. Really bad. Here's what I will say, though. If you're struggling with Biome 5, get yourself an electropylon driver, which is not a weapon I used throughout the game, hardly at all, but I used it for Biome 5, and it made my life so much easier. Biome 5 was a nightmare for me, and honestly, if I wasn't super committed to beating the game like I am right now I'm just in this vibe of beating video games. But I will tell you, if I wasn't so committed, I may have quit in this biome. It was a nightmare-inducing experience. Almost as bad as the pits from Biome 1, believe it or not. It was bad. I was struggling. But the electropylon driver made my life a lot easier, so check that out if you're struggling. But essentially, Biome 5 is laid out a little different than the other biomes in the game. In this biome, you're only going through 3 doors and collecting 3 keys. There's not actually a boss in this area. Essentially, it's just a collect and gather biome, and it unlocks the ability to go underwater for Biome 6. Biome 6 is the Abyssal Scar, and it rivals Biome 4 for just visual impressiveness, as you're now underwater, and underwater levels in games traditionally suck asshole. This one is incredible. It's just got a great environment. The music is great. The way that they design the audio, so when Celine makes a grunt noise, it just reverberates just like it would sound if it was underwater. It's a really cool environment, a really fun area to explore. And the other nice thing is, the enemies in this area are not anywhere near as difficult as they were in Biome 5. You have to deal with some new varieties that also suicide bomb at your ass. Luckily enough, though, one shot, those guys are out of here, and it really isn't that big of an issue. The mini boss in this area is also quite a bit. It is going to kill you, probably. It's tough until you learn its mechanics, but nothing super crazy. This was just a really fun experience, and it was euphoric in a way because I was finally done with Biome 5, so I just was happy to be here. Can't beat that, honestly. So it was a fun little romp around in the underwater area. I will say it also is nice because you get super high jumps in this area because your weight distribution is different underwater, and they encapsulate that in the game, and it's just a fun area. It's a nice payoff for grinding through that shithole of Biome 5 that you just went through. And to conclude the game with the final boss of Biome 6, his name is Ophion. Something like that, but he's not very difficult. You basically shoot the glowing orbs next to him. It summons polyps on his skin that you shoot to deal damage. It's probably the easiest boss in the game, to be honest. Really not that difficult, but I will say, by the time you get to him, you're kind of ready for the game to be over. At least I was, so I'm happy that he wasn't a big issue. I was able to kind of plow through him, get through it, and go through the end cutscene and see the credits roll. So, yeah, I was okay with it being a little lightweight. Little easy guy. Alright, so that pretty much concludes the cycles and the biomes of the game. And so this is normally probably where I would talk about the story. However, like I said earlier, I don't know what happened. I don't know. The end cutscene tries to sum it up for people with brains that have been following along. My brain is about probably that size, so didn't help me much. I'm gonna have to watch a lore video. Probably should have done it in preparation for this video if I was smart, but I'm not smart, as I just demonstrated. But anywho's, we're not gonna talk about story. The game is designed, I think, to be played. And that's one of the positives I have about this game, is that it's a game-ass game. It's just a game that you plug in, you run in, you do a cycle, and you just have fun shooting shit. There's nothing to it. It's really over the top, really crazy. There's a lot of games coming out now that are just designed to be super competitive, that piss you off or make you want to be an esports professional gamer dude. And as a 30-year-old man, my reaction time just isn't that good anymore. So those competitive shooters, competitive games like that don't interest me as much as they used to. So just having a game-ass game that you can pop in and play and just have some fun and not take too seriously is a good change of pace. Very refreshing. That's one thing I really liked about this game. So that's really pretty nice. The other thing that I want to mention was incredibly refreshing is that there is no in-game shop, there's no microtransactions, there's nothing in this game you can buy with your money. So unbelievably, Housemarque developed a game where the whole thing was given to you at once. They didn't sell anything. There's no customization options that you have to pay for. There's no battle pass, no season pass, no pussy clitoris tattoo, nothing. Can't buy a goddamn single cosmetic, and I love it. Thank you. We need more games like this. This is incredible, and I'm so happy that there's still a video game, a modern game, that exists without an in-game shop. It seems crazy, but I haven't seen a game with no in-game shop in a decade, it feels like. So that was super nice. Got to give them props for that. And they even released DLC, which we didn't talk about, which is the Tower of Sisyphus. Close enough, I think. Also completely free, and that tower is fun as shit. I'm going to play more tower even though I beat the game, just because it's just really cool. It takes the speed of Returnal, cranks it up 100 notches. It's like a score-based mode where you can keep getting new high scores, and it's just fast-paced and really, really fun, and good thing to do, and it was completely free, and that's incredible. So huge shout-out to Housemarque for doing that. It's incredible, and I love to see it. Also want to mention, as a positive, the sound design is incredible. Please play this game with headphones. If you're not streaming online like I do, and you have a weird-ass Elgato issue where when you plug your headphones into your controller, it deletes the audio from your Elgato, so your stream can't hear it. If you don't have to deal with that, play the game with headphones. This game is awesome, and there's a lot of nuanced sounds that you wouldn't pick up by using your TV speakers that can only really be experienced with headphones. So play it with headphones, enjoy what they crafted here. It's really special, and I'm kind of jealous I wasn't able to experience the whole game with headphones on. Now, it's been pretty glowing so far, but I do want to talk about a couple issues I had. Unfortunately, I did have a few. One of which kind of ties back into what we mentioned a little bit earlier. If I wasn't really committed to playing the game and beating it for Kaylin's sake, and because I'm have an addiction to checking games off as completed right now, it's very possible that I would have quit this game at two separate points. The first point was in Biome 1. Again, it's just a roguelike issue where I just didn't feel powerful, and I wasn't really having a lot of fun at that point. The game does get better, luckily, but I was in Biome 1 for probably too long, and I didn't get as many upgrades as I felt like I should have at that point, which made it a little bit of a chore to get through that particular area. And that would have been a point of contention for sure. The next point that I had issues again was Biome 5. Clearly, if you couldn't tell by my rant about it earlier, I was stuck in there for way too long. I wasn't having any fun till I switched to a weapon that could handle the area properly, which was against my playstyle, I would say, throughout the rest of the game, and it just wasn't jiving. But I pushed through, got through it, and was able to complete the game, but those were definitely tough points, and honestly, if I wasn't streaming and wasn't committed as I was, I would have jumped at Biome 5, even though I was so close to the end of the game. It was just area, it was just not, it didn't jive with me well, I just didn't like it. The last thing I'll mention is a negative, which isn't really a negative, it's just a personal preference thing. The haptics, even though this is the game that displays PlayStation haptics better than any game has ever done before, I couldn't adjust. Being a boomer, old man now in gaming that just, an old dog that couldn't learn new tricks. So in this game, you can aim your weapon by holding down the left trigger, and if you hold it all the way down, you can use your alternate fire ability on your weapon. So half is aim, all the way down is alt fire. I just don't have that in me, even though there's resistance at the halfway point, so you can basically hit a ledge and then push through the ledge to get to the alt fire because of the amazing haptics that are on the PS5 controller. I never adjusted, so I just hip fired my way through the game, and then when I needed to use my alt fire, I just pushed the trigger all the way down and blew shit up. I never aimed barely because I just couldn't get used to the half trigger pull that the game did. That's a me issue. That's not a everybody issue. My buddy Jason loves that part of the game. He thinks that's incredible that they did that. I just couldn't adjust, so I just wanted to mention it. Otherwise, the haptics in the game are really good if you want to see what your PlayStation controller can do. Just be ready to adjust. It takes a little adjusting, that's for certain. Other than that, though, that's about all I got. This isn't really a review, so I'm not going to give it a score. Ultimately, just a chance for me to talk about the game because I did enjoy it and wanted to share it with you guys. Honestly, I think it's a great time. I think it's fun. If you really jive with the game early on, you'll probably have a fantastic time with it. If you're going into it because you want to complete a game, it took me about 25 to 30 hours in-game time, I would say. So pretty substantial. But that's, again, I fell in a million pits. I died a lot more than I probably should have, and I just suck. So if you're really good, it might not take you that long. It might be an easy playthrough. But I don't know. I have a hard time saying it's really above average. It does a lot of really cool things. But because of those hard points that I had, I don't see myself ever playing it again, you know? And I feel like the sign of a great game is a game that I want to go back to and play immediately after Lies of P, Bloodborne, Need for Speed Underground 2. Still love that game. Sunshine. You know, those games are games I want to go back to and play over and over. Like I do a run, I beat it. I want to jump back into a new game and do it all over again. And I don't see myself ever wanting to replay through all of Returnal again. I just don't think it's I don't think I'll ever have the drive. And it's kind of a bummer, but I still think it was a fun experience to play through from start to finish. I'm happy I did it. I had a great time. And all in all, pretty good experience. Other than that, thank you guys so much for watching the video. Again, please consider liking and subscribing down below if you haven't done so already. I would really, really appreciate it. I'm trying to grow over here, again, for nothing other than to boost my own ego. But if you want to see more videos like this in the future, I'd really appreciate it if you would do that for me. Other than that, guys, take care of yourself, take care of each other, love animals, and we'll talk to you soon.